Right, welcome to the August 19th Board of Selectmen's meeting. Call the meeting order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Andy in Zoom land.
He's with us.
He's with us. Well, jump right down to number 3 there. We've got Andy from Exponet is going to have a Zoom meeting with us talking about conference room audio improvements.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I had reached out to Andrew. He's been on site several times and talked to him about the dynamics in this room and some of the challenges. So I asked them to put a quote together, which they did. You have it in your packet. There are actually 2 options there. One is kind of lower end, one is much higher end. And Andrew can get into the details on the higher end one and explain why that's good, why that should improve our quality, sound quality. There are other items in the proposal that he can talk about, kind of walk you through it. And then under your agenda, item number 7 would be an action item. If you want to move forward, you can do it at that time. Andy, when you start, can you talk a little bit about your experience with sound engineering, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Hayes. I do work at Exponet. I'm one of the techs there. Also the I'm the director of operations, but in a past life, I spent 10 years working in Los Angeles as an audio engineer. I worked 4 years on American Idol, made albums with the Scorpions, Linkin Park, did stuff for Matchbox 20 and Rob Thomas and a bunch of others. But basically my focus out there, I dealt with microphones and speakers and everything audio related. And I believe that gives me, just from my experience out there, I just want to bring that here so that we can actually accurately describe what kind of system we have. So what I have proposed is by a company named Shure, and that's one of the, at least audio industry, kind of top companies that I have trusted for years. They make good products that last a really long time. Their microphones are built like tanks that you're not going to break them. But the best part about them is their quality and their dependability. So we did give 2 estimates. One is a lower end, just kind of entry level. It's not much different from essentially what you have now, but maybe a slightly more dedicated microphone setup. What I propose as a higher end solution is a more encompassing solution that it ends up being very simple to run, which is part of my favorite part about it. There are other systems out there that could be more complicated and potentially higher end, but I don't want something to be in your hands where you need extra expertise to be able to run it. Once you plug this system into a computer USB, it works just like any other simple microphone setup, like maybe a Jabra or something that you might know as like a little puck. And so within your system, you simply choose your microphone and your output speaker, and you're all set. So I do want to show you a diagram that's close, but not exact to what I have proposed. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right, so the main thing is that I want to show is just the workability, not necessarily every individual component, but what we see here is at the top, we have a switch and a PoE switch. Right now, I don't believe that you have a PoE switch that would be able to power the system, so that would be something that would need to be a part of this new setup. But with PoE, instead of having to plug in individual devices into power, they send power over the Ethernet cables. And this whole system works over just the Ethernet cables. And this white stem hub over here on the right side is the real brains of the operation. Basically everything, you just put it onto the switch, so it's all on the same network. It's going to be getting addresses just like the computers. Once you plug them in, they get an address. These are the same way. This stem hub then will plug into your computer via USB and make it so you have the easy input-output options. But just to kind of show what everything is, I proposed as kind of the center point of this is the stem ceiling. All of these devices are named stem. It's just kind of the line that they have from Shure. But the stem ceiling is something that we would mount into the ceiling. It has roughly 100 microphones all around. And if you may have seen something called an owl, but what it does is when people are talking, it basically turns on the microphones looking at that person and turns off microphones where there might be just rustling papers or some other extra noise that you don't want to be part of the conference. So the stem ceiling is kind of the center point, but we're going to skip over the stem wall and the displays here. We're not really worried about that at the moment. Main thing is that we have the PC over here. You have the stem ceiling and the stem table. Those are the stem table might be if you needed a podium or something like that for other closer mics for someone out in the public in the audience. The stem control, you actually can control the microphones from there. So if by chance you needed to turn one off, you could do more configuration that way. And the lines are just showing that basically all of the actual connections are made with Ethernet cables. And there's one USB cable from the hub down to the computer. And once you have the system in place, it's really set it and forget it. You don't have to do a lot of extra stuff. Once you get it going, it's going to work for you every time. And it should be easy for everyone who is familiar with simple Zoom or Teams or whatever kind of meetings to be able to run this system. So that's why we proposed it, because first off, it's a quality system that will last you a very long time, and it doesn't take any maintenance or anything like that. It's just going to work for you every single time.
Yeah, there's some speakers in the ceiling. I mean, we've heard that enough from people saying that they can't hear all the conversation, zooming in live or watching it.
So the board might be interested in the microphone in the ceiling, but also a loudspeaker also.
Right. So part of this that is not shown that I did add as part of the estimate is that in addition to the microphones here, you will need some speakers that are part of the system. And there are speakers made by this same stem line that also are PoE powered. And we would put those into the ceiling. And it's not going to recreate the sound that you are speaking. It's so that someone like myself is going to come through from the opposite end of the conference call.
Thank you for your presentation. If this room wasn't used for this purpose in the near future, is this configuration able to be extracted and put into a different facility?
Yeah, if necessary. It's not a 100% permanent sort of thing. We could, the installation is actually fairly easy, and we could take it out and move it anywhere needed.
Thank you.
Andy, we all know the technology moves forward rapidly, and you can't predict the future, but if you spend this money on something like this, is it going to withstand the test of time, 5 or 10 years, something? Can you predict that we can build on it or still be able to use it with the current platform?
Yes, because of the platform is simply being USB audio with conference calls, and again, whether that's Teams, Zoom, or any other platform, USB audio is not going away, and it's actually kind of at its peak right now where it's ubiquitous across all, whether it's Macintosh or Windows platforms. That's not going to stop, and as things do progress, there are firmware updates that will match with new drivers that come out. So that sort of thing is always being updated. And with the operating systems right now, we're kind of in a transition. We're near the end of life of Windows 10 going into Windows 11. USB audio, we have had that around since at least XP, if not Vista and Windows 7 for sure. But the only thing that really does change on that end of things will be drivers and the actual connectability. So right now, USB-A is still just what we know as the rectangular standard USB when you just say USB until you put a modifier saying USB-C or anything else. And that has stood the test of time where They continue to improve that protocol, but we're not getting rid of it because it's everywhere and we all need it. So as new USB devices do come out, this is still the golden standard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is this power surge protected, the system?
I would suggest doing that is not inherent to itself. That's something we would have to build into it and make sure that we do have it on either a battery backup, power surge, something you do want something to protect against that. Even this last week with the storms coming through, we had enough computers from homes, businesses that were completely fried because they didn't have any protection. So not just this system, but every system that's plugged in and potentially can be affected by lightning should have some sort of protection on it for sure.
Secondly, if there's a long-term power outage, what's the recovery time for the system to get back in function?
These boot up in less than a minute. The microphone itself really doesn't have much of a boot. It's more the stem hub, and that's about a 45-second boot for that. If by chance if you already have your computer on a battery backup, you would want to have this on a battery backup as well. And in order to do that, you would just need this PoE switch. Depending on if further communication is needed, simply having the PoE switch on a battery backup is going to power the entire system and keep it connected to the computer. So if you simply had one for the computer and one for the PoE switch, everything's going to stay up.
Hi there, do we need like all the, like it says 2 tabletop speaker microphones, 2 loudspeakers, is there a way to, just by saving money, not in this small space configuration, do we need all those? I mean,
That I wanted to put out something that would be complete coverage for everything in all situations. If you wanted to reduce that, not every single thing is required. I would at least put in the ceiling and the hub and the speakers. That was what I would call the bare minimum. Beyond that, it's being able to modify the setup per the situation if by chance you had either extra people in there or something along those lines.
thank you.
And at a later date, and we could add in the tabletop microphones too. If we find out that the ceiling mounted array is not quite robust enough, we can add in later on.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that was
Anything.
kind of my strategy, Mr. Chair, with recommending up to 10,000, cutting a couple of these things out of the quote when we get to that.
And so those 3 items bring around 5. If I get the 3 right items. Anybody else have anything? All right. Thank you, Andy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'll be in touch, Andy.
All right, take care.
Down to 4, public to speak on non-agenda item. Mr. Mark.
Mark Beauregard, 183 Gillespie Street, Cranston, Maine. And thank you. I've been hearing some conversation around town about a seat possibly opening up on the Board of Selectmen. And I'll tell you what I've heard, and then you folks can provide me the facts, because as we all know, you can hear anything in Rancho. So what I heard was that Wendy has purchased a house in another town in Dallas Plantation, and intends to move there if she hasn't already, and put hers up for sale, and it's under contract, and so it's conversation went on that, and I witnessed it with Jim Carrigan, that when a selectman moves to a different town, he has to resign his seat. So I'm just wondering if this is correct information, and if there is going to be a seat opening up sometime.
Well, she made it public a couple of meetings ago that she did purchase a house in Dallas. That's all that we've been told so far, so.
And if I move to this house, I will resign my seat for sure.
Okay, so you haven't moved yet?
No,
Okay. The reason bringing this up now, and somehow I missed the public announcement about you doing your house, buying the house, but with the town meeting in November, the deadline for petitions and nomination papers is September 6th. So,
Mark, I have my letter right here, and we're gonna be talking about it in executive session tonight.
in executive session?
Yeah.
Okay, so may there be an announcement when you come out of executive
Yes.
session?
There will be.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else on a non-agenda item? Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question regarding the police chief's salary.
Yep.
There just seems, already on the agenda, we've got the towns you guys are using for the salary survey comparison. We've got a fire chief pay increase request. So wondering, what towns were used as a basis for the police chief's salary, wondering if there's any carryover to your future discussions.
All discussions we had on that one executive session.
It
Not
should
too
have
much-
been.
Not too much that we. Pretty sure you can't be having open discussions about pay or compensation for people.
It's actually public information. So you can't discuss the rationale for a $94,000 salary, where the information came from, what your. It's a budget item. I mean, really.
If I may.
Sure.
I think rationale may be discussed, but when it comes to negotiating or parceling out figures, I think that is something that has to be done behind closed doors. Especially if you're negotiating with an individual in person. But the rationale for why you may want to increase salaries in order to keep quality personnel, I think is certainly something that can be discussed in open forum.
Anybody else?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, under the heading of public safety, I have 3 items, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. Number 1, Route 16 out here, and first of all, I commend the signs we have coming down the bottom of Cemetery Hill. It works. And if there's someone who wants to speed behind you, they're gonna slow down because you're gonna follow. It works. However, Route 16, you know where I live, Jim, of course, my son knows where I live. My wife and I call that the Rangeley Racetrack, because people are crazy speeding on that road. Whether it's a motorcycle, whether it's a personal vehicle or trucking, they are right on the pin. And everybody tends to go a little faster when you want to get somewhere. But in particular, in Jerry Brackett's old home, there's a family of, I think, 5 kids. And a couple of them are really little tykes who ride their bikes up and down that road. We don't want to get into a discussion later on about funeral arrangements because somebody got killed because of speeding on that road. At times, people go slow on that road, people actually will pass in front of my house to go past that. So my request is, I don't know how we got that other signs coming down City Hill. Can we have that same thing done at the entry to Rangeley on the other side? I don't know what it's like coming in 17 on the other entry point, Rangeley 16 Hill. But here, going and coming, and there's trucking companies that are very accommodating. They follow the rules. Other trucking companies come, I don't know how they're able to stop before they go into Debbie Levy's house. So my request is, if that's something that the board can make happen, I would be greatly appreciative of that. To have that same system put up here. Because even if they're thinking about speeding, once they see that, the mindset changes. Secondly, I'm all in favor of what Health and Wellness does with the concert series. It's a great benefit to the town. But when you come down the bottom of Pleasant Street, they put that banner across a couple posts there, and it's very difficult to see around it. And then the people have the chicken barbecue, put one below that on the same post. And then you have the more refurbished real estate, the insurance sign. And so you end up having to ease your way out into the intersection. So this is something that I think the town could consider on Main Street, putting up a couple tall posts that would be for that use only, for signage, event signage for the town. I don't know that'd be that expensive, I don't know whether they could put up a roof system or something to raise lower banners, but that's a very dangerous situation at the bottom of Pleasant Street. And I described to him earlier, I see the new yellow line is kind of swerving to the right there at the bottom of Pleasant Street. And I suspect the state did that to accommodate trucking, either making a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn to make it a wider turn. So I pulled down, there was someone who came down the bottom of Pleasant Street and parked right tight to the yellow line. I pulled alongside of him, put my blinker on. This guy here wanted to go right. He couldn't tell that it was right-hand turn only, left-hand turn only. I don't know whether we do that kind of marking in the pavement. It's virtually invisible now. But if we don't, would the town get a hold of the state and have that put back into the roadway again? So people know what's happening with the directions?
I think we can reach out to MDOT on that, yeah.
And as far as the signage, if there's something the town can do to put up some posts on Main Street, I mean, you're gonna see that much more visibly actually than on the corner there, when people are talking to turn.
We have some improvements for Main Street that we're gonna be discussing, have some public workshops on that, so that can be making on that. Okay, thanks, discuss that. And as far as the signage, Joe, that's at the bottom of Cemetery Hill, that's gonna go with that too.
Sure.
16.
Thank you, it's helpful.
No problem.
Just one more thing. I spent a lot of time going up and down the Proctor Road working. And we are paved right up to the Country Club Road. From there down is a dirt road. Today it rains, no problem. Tomorrow it's wet, no problem. Once that dries, there's another circumstance that I encountered coming up the bottom of Proctor Road. Someone was in front of me and it was a dust cloud. Someone came down the other way and then increased the dust cloud. And then a car came right toward me head on. I couldn't see it. He sold me at the last minute, swerved out of the way. Do we not put calcium on roads anymore? I know they've done some upgrades with that. The calcium tends to keep the dust level down.
Does the highway have?
We have the capability to do it. I don't believe we've done it yet this year. They were a little.
I can't tell you the last time it was done. I've been working on that road for 34 years. It's been a long time since that was applied. And while I was on the board in those seats, that was one of the #1 roads for me. And it has not been done. That would solve that issue. And I know there's a cost to it, but a head-on collision can't be the cost. I don't know how the people who live on the other side of that road cope with that dust storm every time I do. And you don't have to go fast. You can go 15 miles an hour. It's a dust storm on that road. So there are just 3 points of public safety that
Thank you. Mark?
So Gary mentioned that he didn't know how things were on the Route 17 end. And just in the last week, some folks that live in Boston Village were sharing their angst with me about conditions on Route 17. And the way they describe it, they said it's just nuts. It's completely out of control. You know, you've got people passing each other on that straightaway. They have just as you leave the Cary Road, you know, the speeds are high right up to the stop sign, you know, and they don't stop and pause before they turn either direction onto the Cary Road and stuff. They think it needs some signage and some police presence there to get things under control. They're pretty unhappy.
I'm not sure if it's the same people. We'll get some correspondence from someone talking about that later on. Yeah. All right, anyone else? All right, now let's notify boards and committees. We've got some minutes from Sewer Commission, Park Commission, and Planning Board for reference. So it moves along. To our minutes from our August 5th meeting.
Motion to accept August 5th, regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
By Sam, second by Wendy. Any discussion? All in favor? So moved. 10 items. Exponet. Everyone's pleasure. Those 3 items that we discussed, or
I like Sam's suggestion of maybe culling that in just a little bit is to start, because you could add on if it wasn't sufficient. And then you're well below your 10 grand threshold, but you're still upgrading it to a much better system than that thing. Like, nobody can hear anybody.
So
I mean, I've heard so many comments about that.
Exactly. I think the three items that he listed comes right from 5,000. Like you said, we can always add to that or tweak it if we feel that we need to, but something definitely needs to be done because we hear it. So.
Don't slow over 5%.
Yeah, those are the three items.
Motion for expedite to spend up to $6,000 on the system.
Motion and a second, any more discussion?
I just want to be sure, Mr. Chair, if that's enough to cover it. Whatever we do is going to require labor. Cable.
You want just the 10, just.
But yeah, if we don't need it all, I won't spend it all.
Right.
For up to that.
I amend my motion to up to $10,000 for expedite for this.
Second, so motion made, a second by Wendy. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Just as a side note, Mr. Chair, I will not purchase that until after October 3rd. Some of our reserve funds are tied up with the CDOS currently, so after October 3rd, we'll have to shuffle those back in where they go.
Down the liquor licenses, we have one for Little Lodge.
Motion to accept liquor license for Little Lodge Inn and Restaurant.
Second.
Motion by Sam, second by Wendy. Any other discussion? All in favor? I got another one here for Parkside.
Make a motion to accept the liquor license for Parkside and Main.
Second.
Any other discussion? Motion by Sam, second by Wendy. Sorry, all in favor? Catering license, Vintage Food and Beverage LLC.
Motion to accept the catering license for Vintage Food and Beverage.
Second.
Motion by Sam, second by Wendy. Any other discussion? All in favor? So moved. Event permit for the Trail Town Festival.
Make a motion to accept the event permit for the Trail Town Festival happening Saturday, August 31st, 2024, pending certificate of liability.
Second.
Motion by Sam, second by Wendy. Any other discussion? All in favor? So moved. 5 feet pay increase.
Make a motion to direct the town manager to increase the fire chief's salary to $90,000 per year beginning August 5th, 2024, with the expectation that the funds necessary to support the increase will be found in the current fiscal year department budget.
Second.
Motion by Sam, second by Wendy. Any other discussion? Borgard.
I just wondering, you just entered into a contract with MMA to do a salary survey, and why would you do this before you got the results of the salary survey?
Something that we've actually been discussing sometime for a number of months, and why we're backing on it now.
But still, doesn't it make sense to wait and see what the salary survey indicates?
Thank you for your input. Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, being a part of the budget committee, we were, in parallel with your process of going through the budget, and you had made that increase of up to $100,000 for the police chief's line, but chose not to at that time for the fire chief. So it couldn't have been in discussion for very long. So I just feel like this circumvents the town meeting process of open discussion, of the vote by the constituents, and I'm frankly a little alarmed.
Your input.
Everyone knew the input was coming from me. I felt it from the coldness when I walked in the room this evening. So clearly you've seen my post today. I find this appalling, disturbing on every level that I can even come up with. Those are short of the words that I want to express. I understand that this is just an input at this point because the town manager does these increases and all he's asking for is your support to do this. But this is not the way that an increase for someone's wages should be handled. A tantrum does not expedite an increase in your wages mid-season or at the beginning of a fiscal year where the budget process had already gone through. It's amazing that we have this much of wiggle room in a budget to give somebody this type of increase in a new fiscal year. It clearly means we need to look at those budgets in the future, that we're not over budgeting to this extent. A couple of comments. I think we just did another full-time, we just approved another full-time position alleviating responsibilities of a single individual or position, or so that was the argument. So why the increase? We are just beginning work on a salary survey. I'll just reiterate. So why are we increasing pre-results? Thank you. I know there won't be a response to any of that, but I just wanted to make sure it was publicly stated.
Thank you. Cindy?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So just wondering where in the budget this extra money is coming from? Is it within the department, Mr. Chairman? Or is it, where is this coming from?
Mr. Chair, I believe the board's intent with this is that it will come from the fire department budget itself.
Another discussion, Gary?
And I would just like to state my support that the board is taking and falling behind capital personnel in our town. And I was part of, I said to Cindy before you convened, we actually have as many former members here in the audience as you do present members. So we have a lot of background in how some of these processes take place. But for far too long, we've been hiring people who get trained here, do well here, and make their way out the door at our expense. And in an effort to keep those quality personnel, we need to keep in standing with what the climate of employment is like right now. And so I don't know what the fire chief is getting right now. God forbid we lose another really quality person like that. But, and I'm not going to say the sky is the limit, but whatever it takes to make some of these people's positions permanent by supporting them with either a salary or wage and benefit packages, or even an open statement of support for them to let them know they are appreciated. I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you, Gary.
I also was on the budget committee, and I'll have a different point of view. I sort of aligned with Gary that I felt as we were going through the numbers, we were kicking the can down the road when it came to public safety. And it was very supportive of hiring the additional fireman. And the chief was here one night and made a presentation and told us what his salary was. I think he was getting a good bargain. I was a little shocked at it. So again, good people are hard to come by. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Jim.
I just question why someone would feel not appreciated with what the town does for the employees, with the retention bonuses, annual increases in the pay, and the salary survey, which you and Wendy kind of brought up at the Fergus Brew House when you were running that. That was a key thing for you folks to get a salary survey done so you could use it to make sure our employees were fairly compensated. And I just think you're out of sequence here by bumping the pay when the salary survey is going to be done in another month or two. You know, I don't know what the hurry is. Why you couldn't wait and see what it says to see how things fall into place.
Thank you. Do we have anything else? All in favor? On old business. Speaking of salary survey, Joe, you got anything you want to update? We got our list here from Rich.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I want to update the board on a couple of things. Rich has begun work on this. He and I had a conference call and follow up on the meeting last time. And we had to narrow it down, not narrow it down, but hone in on 8 towns that best represented the conversation that we had at that meeting. I just want to be sure that you have them and you don't have any concerns about them. I'll read them so folks know. It's Presque Isle, Carabasset Valley, Bethel, Bar Harbor, East Bay, Richmond, Greenville, Final Haven. And then the positions covered below that town manager, assistant town manager, police chief, fire chief, town clerk, treasurer, tax collector, planning director, which is not currently in position, but is contemplated, code enforcement officer, parks and rec director, public services director. So I'm going to get email updates from Rich. He's got somebody in his office that's helping him with this. So when I get those updates, I'll share them with the board. And we're still on schedule for an early November unroll of this, and I'll keep you apprised of any scheduling changes should they happen. But this is timely for the budget process that is upcoming, that will begin January 8th.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
When you cite individuals as Joe just did, would you cite who they are for the folks here? We'll know who you are talking about or referencing for information. You just referenced at the beginning of this, you talked to an individual.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Rich Cromwell is the Human Resources Liaison for the Maine Municipal Association.
Thank you. It's helpful for us.
Sorry about that.
All right, new business, fire protection agreement from Sandy River.
So
Oh,
sorry. How
sorry,
much are we
sorry.
paying for that salary survey again?
What's that?
How much are we paying for that salary survey again?
1,500. Fire protection agreement from Sandy River we have here. We've looked it over, Joe, and we've had legal look it over. We've got a few.
Yeah, Steve, Tony Langsdorff and I have been through this. The items that are in red and yellow are my comments. I did some strikeouts there in black. Tony Langsdorff inserted the language in blue in response to my thoughts and comments on the phone to the item that's struck out there in paragraph 2. So the new language, the proposal from Sandy River was that the fire chief for Rangeley also be the fire chief for Sandy River. After I thought about that for a while and talked with Steve Langsdorff, we realized that it makes sense because under Title 30A, they need to have their own fire chief. But I wanted to make sure that, procedurally, the agreement reflected the fact that the chief is an employee of Rangeley. So Steve kind of wordsmithed that to get that into the document to satisfy the legal requirement that they appoint a fire chief. Probably the most significant part in that part of the document, further down, and this is my proposal here, to say that additional reasonable overdrafts incurred in each year are split amongst the parties, the plantations in the town. And it's billed a year in arrears too. It is now, would continue to be under this. And I also put in there, no interest would be applied. I know that's something that came up in the boardroom here in the last 2 or 3 years. We don't charge any interest on that. But I think it's a fair compromise to say that if we have a reasonable overdraft, if something comes up, we have to put out more fires than we thought we were going, for instance, where there's a $3,000 or $4,000 overdraft. I think it's only reasonable that that's split amongst the participants. Much in the way that if we come under a budget, obviously, then we're not going to expect them to pay what we had budgeted in the first place. Those are my thoughts there. Steve didn't seem to have any interest, any issues with those. And then in yellow, there's no commentary on this. I just highlighted it so that everybody was aware that the town range would be financially responsible for any money that was owed in the situation where a structure burned or something like that. If there was some error made, we would be responsible for that, as opposed to Sandy River being responsible. So those are comments on what Steve and I can put into this document for thoughts. I've talked with Chief Baker and I have been through this together. I think once this is agreed upon by Sandy River and the board, I think this is a format we should ask the remaining plantations to use next year. Once this is formalized and finalized and signed, we should ask those other plantations to follow this format if they would.
Kind of on our radar to look at the formula in general.
So the formula, yeah, and I want to thank Steve Langsdorff for pointing out the fact that should be attached as an appendix, which I've shared with you tonight. I have one copy here I can give to the public. This is a formula that's been in place for 10 or And it's a couple of years, it lags a couple of years because of the state evaluation. But it should be attached to this by reference, so the current formula is mentioned in here. So the current formula can be voted on or approved year to year, right? So it's that annual formula that would be attached to this as an appendix. So,
Yes, just one question on the term of this agreement for 3 years. Is my math wrong? On that from 2024 to 2026?
I believe this is being proposed to take effect this year.
But not end in 2026.
So 24, 25, 26.
25 to 26. 27, right? I mean,
Well, if you
that's how, I'm sorry, that's how my math is.
No, it's the 30 to 27. Right? That's right. 30 to 26.
Does it start July 1st or is it January 1st?
Starts July 1st. We can make that 27.
I mean, if I'm wrong, I was like, am I getting this wrong?
But it's something, the board would want to think about as a term, but it's currently a 1 year term, so I don't see any hazard to having a 3 year term. Really, I think it's a little less paperwork.
So that would make, sorry, question. Would that mean that if this was a 3-year contract and you had the formula as an appendix on this, that you wouldn't have the ability to change the formula within the term of the contract, which is 3 years?
Good questions, Jerry. The way I read this is that the parties would have the opportunity to adjust the formula because it says the current formula.
Maybe that should be written out.
Okay.
In the contract.
Okay.
I mean, just as a safeguard, because sometimes if it's not said, that people can have different impressions of what the meaning is.
Right, so we could do that, or you could propose a 1 year agreement, which would shrink it down to 1 year, and then you'd be committed to that formula for that year. There's a couple ways to approach it.
I guess the 1 year is cleaner than you can do.
Is it too much of a hassle for Sandy River and us to revisit it every year, or is it okay? I mean, here we have Miss
So
Sandy River right
Sandy
here.
River proposed this. We sent this to you folks.
Right.
Okay.
Because we wanted the amendment. And while apparently legally it's gotten a little bit of an argument of how something was written, everything Joe said needed to be in it
Mhm.
was in it originally. It's just a matter of your attorney differed from what my attorney said needed to. This was drafted by Sandy River's attorney. So whether it's 3 years, the thought process behind that was, it was a simpler way to put things into action and we didn't have to revisit something that is so consistently. The other thing that brought this about is that line that Joe has put back in. So this will have to go back before my Board of Assessors and my attorney, because what brought the need of this about was we received a bill that indicated we owed for the department's inability to stay within budget. So they had to pay an overage because the fire department went over budget. And that was cause for concern for the constituents in the community of Sandy River. So the fact that that language has been put back into this agreement will now bring up, it's gonna be a back and forth. It's gonna have to go back to the Board of Assessors there and back to the attorney on that side.
I guess if we could just clarify the formula part of it, that we have the current formula, or however it's worded in there makes sense, but just make sure all parties know that if we change it halfway through, like, that's the formula that we'll be going with. Jim?
My question is, I don't know, some previous conversations about this, but are you updating it each year with new data? So this one has the 2022 data in it. It's feeding it, so next year we put it. Right, so
Right.
it's a 3 year term, but it's being refreshed each year.
That's
So
correct.
the formula makeup that probably hasn't changed since it's been implemented 20 years ago, and that's, I think, what we were, right,
Mhm.
that's what talking about. Yes.
And that yellow, the highlight, you put that back in there?
Just, no, it never came out. I just highlighted it when I was reading through it. I I should have taken the yellow off before I gave it to you, but it was something I wanted to
That
point out.
No, the in addition line,
Yeah.
yellow,
and
that he put in.
But then back to that highlight, is that Attorney Langsdorf, that language,
He was okay with it.
he's
I
okay
just
with
put it
that?
in there to come back to it myself and make sure I understood.
I would think that would be also retroactive, or what's the right word, both parties. Not just follow on Rangeley.
Sandy River indemnifies Rangeley in the following paragraph.
Okay.
That is just in the event that the fire chief makes a decision to tear down something in the pursuit of fire control.
Add on that, which case, Joe, if the town was responsible for a structure, that's our insurance deals with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I think is important for people to know, because a lot of things, legal stuff, lawsuits, whatever, settlements and everything. Well, I think a lot of times people think that we reach into certain accounts and write a check. It'll be coming out of insurance and we'll pay it on. Am I correct?
Most likely, yes, most likely. And just as a sidebar, Mr. Chair, the state law has provisions for fire chiefs to do things like this, that they have authority to take down buildings that may not be on fire to promote health and safety, public health and safety. So they have quite a bit of leeway. I don't think there's any problem with this being in the agreement, because we would be covered under the Tort Claims Act and fire insurance.
So you want a motion to send this back? They're gonna keep it on there. So.
Yeah, if the board wanted me to insert some language there about the formula being able to be updated with agreement by both parties. Yeah.
So
Motion by Sam. Second by Ethan. Any other discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. An RFP for the Park and Rec quarter-ton truck. You want to bring us up to snuff on that, Joe? For the self-explanatory, I think.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Parks and Rec Director put together a bid package, put it out on the street, and we had two responses, one from O'Connor. Heights, O'Connor was the low bidder, they were substantially the same. You know, they met the requirements of the bid. So we are recommending that we go with O'Connor. These items is a package of items. It's a truck, 3/4 ton truck, single cab. It's a replacement of one that we have now. It says 2016 on the capital plan, but I almost think it's a 2014 truck. So it'll not directly replace it. It'll replace it once it comes in, then we'll put the other truck up. This is my plan. So it's a 3/4 ton single cab. It's gonna have a poly sander in the back and V plow in the front, so it's completely outfitted. I think it's 8 to 12 weeks out, but they'll allow us to order, sign sales order, and then we'll pay for it again after October 3rd. There's some gymnastics there for when the money is available from the CDRs. We'll have enough in there to pay for it after October 3rd. Currently, recently, we've had some expenses come out of the town park reserve, or will have, coating on the Rangeley courts. Anyway, I'm trying to wrap it up.
I had some damage.
I'm trying to wrap it up.
I had to bring it up.
She's got some
I'm mad.
comments on the new.
So I'm requesting authority to sign a sales order on that 3/4 ton truck from O'Connor for just under $64,000 and make that purchase from the town park reserve after October 3rd this year.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ethan,
Second.
second by Sam, any other discussion? All in favor? All right, now the special town meeting, November 5th. There are a couple items, ordinances, alternative energy. I told Marty I'd remember the other one, vendors. Those are the ones that are going to town meeting or propose to go to town meeting in November. We are not going to make it on Article 2, which is the administrative ordinance. Tracy and I are still working on that in the background.
I have sent an email to Emily, our TIF attorney, to clarify for me what's needed to put the TIF amendments also on the town meeting warrant. I know that was something the board was interested in. So at this point, I think it would be appropriate to set that date as a special town meeting, and then also schedule the first public hearing for that on September 3rd, which is prior to your next meeting. Or could be at your next meeting, however you wanted to do that. That will be just getting the ideas out there, getting the information. That's when you can change those.
Just to 5:30 probably.
Yeah.
Make a motion to call a special town meeting November 5th, 2024, as well as schedule a public hearing for September 3rd, 2024.
Second, motion by Sam, second by Ethan. All in favor? All right.
And that was 5:30, Mr. Chair.
5:30, a half hour to, yeah. Wendy, yes.
As far as those two ordinances go, are we gonna have an opportunity to look at them prior to, I mean, because I haven't seen them in a long time. So, I mean, I don't wanna have a public hearing without having enough time to review it ourselves. We haven't even discussed those.
That's why. So sorry, that's why you direct the ordinance committee to do all the legwork and then it goes to the attorneys, but you folks should have seen several copies throughout each of the stages that it's gone to, each step that it's gone to. I mean, because it was reviewed by us, gone to the attorneys, brought back to us, reviewed by us again, and or had input from planning board, depending on which one it was, and then brought back to you folks. You should have.
We haven't seen it.
I don't think we've seen it.
We'll get into it.
Okay.
All right.
And
Yep.
may I ask too, when we look at the vendor ordinance, could we also look at the application at the same time?
Sure.
So it corresponds.
Oh,
Last term we saw it once,
when
I
we first
think.
got on.
Right.
Excuse me, now the number 10, correspondence. We did get some correspondence from someone on Route 17. Joe, would you mind reading that?
Be happy to, Mr. Chair. So this came from Maine DOT. This is a customer service report. It says, hello, I'm writing to raise a concern regarding the speed limit and lack of a shoulder on Route 17 approaching the Boston Village in Rangeley. A reduction in the speed limit occurs far too close to the intersection of Route 4, given the density of residences and pedestrian foot and cycle traffic. This is also compounded by the fact that as you approach the village, the shoulder disappears even as the speed limit remains 50 miles per hour. The village has seen a fair amount of economic development in the last few years with the addition of multiple restaurants, small farm stand, etc. We should embrace this as a walkable area and reduce traffic speeds and widen the shoulders or add footpath support. That was written on July 29, 24, shared with us by Maine DOT.
And, okay, so that came through them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they already know about it. Automatically update us on any changes they're gonna make in regards to something like that.
I think they would let us know,
Yeah.
yeah, if they were gonna do something there. They just wanted us to be aware of this, in case in case there's any local feedback to them to say, hey, we'd like to look, because we didn't study, when we did our transportation study, we didn't go down back and forth or any distance.
Right.
You know, maybe it's something we wanna look at in the planning exercise internally.
And then the Historic Preservation Commission came back for the country club.
That's an update, Mr. Chair, just letting the board know that this will be passed on to the chief in Washington DC for consideration.
Did we contact the property owners to see if they were copacetic with this?
I don't think we did that. We will.
Oh, by the way,
They might want to know if they don't.
all right, not gonna be read into the record tonight. Joe, sorry, Mark. Hold on.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Back to Wendy's, question about the, looking at the ordinances. So has both of these ordinances already been reviewed by the attorney and they're back as a public document for public review?
That's what Ethan was just saying, yeah.
So where can one find it?
I don't know, is there out there on the website?
We can
or-
put them on the website. We will put them on the website in the green box. We'll do that this week. And certainly if folks want to buy paper copies, they can do that. It'll be available.
Nothing to be read into the record, down to town manager calendar.
Mr. Chair, as you mentioned earlier in the meeting, it would be a good idea to have some workshops or a public hearing on the Main Street improvements that we're contemplating. You could do that on the 3rd, or you could do that on the 17th of September. It has some bearing on, because these won't be constructed until next year, right? So you'll have some time prior to next year to devise any TIF warrant articles that you'll need for construction next year. But if the board is considering using TIF funds for design of any of these projects, then we would have to put together an article for November for design of Main Street projects.
So, I'd say the 16th, that way in case we have a lot of turnout on the 3rd. I want to turn out for this, it's 2 separate times. I believe that's the right time, right? 16th, yeah. Yep, hold on 1 second, Mark.
So when is that, Jim?
The 16th, our second meeting in September,
Yeah, we have the workshop.
workshop on the other one. Do a 5:30 start on that one too then. Mark, you had a question?
I was just gonna suggest that not put too many public hearings on the 3rd. It's the day after Labor Day. Your public's gonna need to catch their breath. You know, so you might not get much attendance then. If you have it 2 weeks later, I think you might get a better
Yeah,
response.
some people might show up today. Too early for a meeting.
Does
He was on time.
He was on time. Oh, all right, so the 11th, we got our quarterly meeting with plantations, and that is set
That is in Dallas.
in Dallas. Okay. 6 p.m. start on that, all right. Officials workshop. Jake's gotta get his training done by then. Oh, you wanted me to remind you something about the meeting?
Yeah, tomorrow evening, Mr. Chair, it's come up informally tonight, but there's an ordinance committee meeting in this room where they've invited in the electronic illuminated sign company to give a demonstration. Board is invited to be there. It's a public meeting.
All right, regional comprehensive plan meeting. Eustis Town Office on the 16th. We'd like to complete yeah, all right. Anything else on your calendar, Joe?
I think that's it for now.
All right,
So sorry, can
You're
you
fine.
get a little more detail on the regional comprehensive plan?
Yes, that is a meeting that AvCog and our consultant planner, I think some folks on the comp plan committee suggested that we put together with municipalities in the region to talk about where they're at with comprehensive planning, where we're at, just to kind of compare notes, meet and greet, talk about what's happening in each community, what things are similar, what things might be different. So all folks in the region are invited to go.
Oh, okay, so the invitation went out to the plan to, I realize the comprehensive plan doesn't have a whole lot of bearing except for the plan to discuss regional planning is coming up as well, so did invitations go out to the surrounding plantations that are in the direct region?
I would have to check my email on that, and AvCog handled the communication on that. We'll follow up on that. While we're on that topic though, Mr. Chair, one of the items that is on or will be on the agenda for the September 11th quarterly meeting will be the concept of regional planning in a more finite way. Like, is there a way that we can share the enforcement of codes and so forth as a more consolidated group in the plantations in the town. That's really in the brainstorming phase, but Ben Godso from Lubec is aware of this. I've invited him to that meeting. So that's really not a comp plan meeting, although we could talk about that. That's more about sharing services potentially for planning and land use sense and enforcing those codes.
Just point of information, Mr. Chair, for the regional comp plan meeting, Erica from AvCog was asked to coordinate it specifically with Stratton through Chair Farmer, because they're also working on their comp plan at the same time that we are. Since we both have similarities, it was more of an information sharing type of meeting, but anyone's invited.
So they're updating their comp plan as well?
Yes.
Because we're updating ours, we're not,
Okay.
right?
Yes, that's what we're doing, yes.
Right. We also have a grant sheet provided to us.
Mr. Chair, there's at least one item I want to bring to your attention. It's the one that's shaded about 2/3 of the way down. We had applied for a risk reduction grant for town park security cameras. The director and I talked about this a lot recently, actually in spring and recently. We made the decision to just go ahead and get those cameras put in and withdraw from the grant. So because that grant is now available for us to apply for, Chief Caton is working on an application, and actually Caton and Chief Baker work together on it to get some safety doors for this facility. We talked about it the last meeting, to apply for a grant for that. So you don't see that on your sheet yet because I literally just saw that application today. But the withdrawal has happened. We've pulled our name out of the hat because you can't pre-buy it. You have to go past the October deadline, whatever it is. And then, we can budget for more. So sidebar on that, the cameras that are installed, they're active, they're live, and the cameras that we're talking about here are in the park, bathhouse. And they have been useful recently. We've had some issues in the park. Had a backboard that was broken over the weekend on one of the basketball courts, which is going to cost over $1,000 to fix. That didn't get picked up on camera because the cameras don't reach that far. The bathhouse does have cameras that are pretty wide angle. So, separate items have been picked up on the cameras already.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are there other grants or other avenues to get more money for the cameras that might want to sell in the park? Or
Backwards.
We could apply for this grant in the next cycle after October. Certainly do that. It's kind of a year turnaround. I think what's in there now is adequately covers the waterfront here.
down there, definitely.
Yeah.
The biggest dividends over the weekend.
There are, yes.
Is there something? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Workers' compensation fund dividend payment.
We received a check from the Maine Municipal Association for a little over $1,000 for our positive loss experience with that. It's good.
Perfect. An update on the quick claim deed for 35 Hotel Road.
Oh, yeah. So we're turning Langsdorff for Freddie, put that deed together for us. I've signed it. I've sent it to their office in Augusta. The opposite party has sent payment to us. We have sent that off to the bank. We are sure that that is clear. We're sure it will. It's on a bank check. Once the funds are in our accounts, I'll authorize them to send the deed to. So that's the update on that.
All right. We have select board communication.
Well, it seemed like a good time, so I need to coincide with the cameras and such down there. Anybody that's been on the board with me knows I've probably said this 3 times over the past 5 years. We installed a bunch of really pretty nice lights, we did the bathhouses, and they're never on at night, from what I heard, so they complained about them at one point, so we turned them off. Parks open until 10, as long as the street lights, all courts, all the lights were always on. Cameras picked up some stuff the other night, I understand, I want the lights turned on, so I make a motion to direct the town manager to direct the Parks and Rec director to turn all the park lights that we own on from dusk till dawn, 365 days a year, 7 days a week. Or tomorrow, the 20th.
Motion by Ethan,
Second.
second by Sam, any other discussion? All, Cindy?
So Ethan, is it your wish that the lights stay on until the 10 PM close time,
No,
or is
dusk
it
till
dusk
dawn.
to dawn?
That's still dawn, because things happen afterwards too.
What did we say?
So we,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. Sam and I both on the park commission now. We did a walkthrough at the last meeting. And there was another incident like a week ago down behind the bathhouse where some kids were down there crawling around on it, doing some stuff. And of course, it was after the lights had gone out, you know, and the park commission discussed it at our last meeting. I mean, it's strictly a safety issue. Plus, we have this new park that was put in. We have the lights. They're all, you know, down facing lights. They're all compliant.
I'd even like to go further, not in this motion, but to have a light reinstalled down at the ball courts. There used to be a street light there.
Yeah.
Parks open until 10, noise ordinances at 10, kids can play ball. And people are down there hanging around. We used to hang down there half the night when I was a kid, until the police chief would tell us we needed to go home.
So yeah, we at the park commission level, we made that motion
From dusk to
till
dawn.
dusk till dawn,
Yeah,
same thing.
We did, I mean, we're on, we're agreement.
Well, that's great.
So, Wendy?
I just have a question. I agree with you. I think that the lights are a good idea, but I just wonder how this cohabitates with the dark sky situation.
All of our lights, I believe, Cindy was on the board, they took into that consideration, all lights have covers.
They're lower in
Oh, they're
height.
full cutoff,
Yeah.
you know,
And I
down
believe our ordinance
illumination,
is a
yeah,
certain amount of degrees,
Yeah.
you can't have your lights, so yeah, these are very tasteful.
okay,
lights.
just, that's the only thing.
And
And
plus
some
the
of the
lights that
longer
we,
ones are nice and low, yeah, it's.
the lights we're talking about primarily are on the handicap ramp that comes up from,
yeah.
low, you know, so it's safety issues, but it's keeping an eye on what's going on down there after dark, because there's a lot of stuff going on, obviously, so. All in favor? So moved. All right. Entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
Make a motion to enter into executive session, MRSA Title 1, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 405, 6A, personal matters.
Motion from Sam, second by Wendy, all in favor?
Boy, they let this person back in.
Just so I can read it.
Oh, no. Okay, no. So 8:15 coming out of our executive session. Want to take it off?
Yeah, the town manager's evaluation is complete, so I make a motion to authorize the chair to sign that evaluation.
Second.
Got a motion by Ethan, second by Sam, all in favor? So moved, and then we have one other piece of business.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a letter coming from me, Wendell Case, and I'm just gonna read it into record, dated August 19th, 2024. Dear fellow select board members, Ethan Schaefer, Jim Janess, Sam White, Jacob Bilyeu, town manager Joe Roche, and Rangeley town staff and the good people of Rangeley. It's with incredible disappointment that I must submit my formal intent to step down from the Rangeley Board of Selectmen due to relocating eventually to Dallas Plantation. This event was not expected nor planned when I ran for office, and my deepest apologies are extended to those who took the time to cast a vote for me. Due to business transactions outside of our control, my husband Alex and I had to make a tough decision to sell our home on Quimby Pond. It's been my pleasure and honor to serve the town of Rangeley alongside some truly talented and intelligent people. If the board is in favor, I'm willing to continue to serve through October, just prior to the November 2024 election when the seat can be filled. I am one lot away from Rangeley and would certainly like to continue to serve in any capacity that will benefit the people of this amazing region. With sincere respect, Wendell Case. And I still am currently residing in Rangeley as we speak today.
Well, very sad to see that come across my desk, but I understand it's a
Had to
decision
do
you
the
had to
right
make, yep.
Yeah.
So you will be missed. Thank you for serving.
I'm just gonna keep coming to the meetings.
That's fine. I would appreciate that. I would appreciate that. And wish you the best of luck. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. At 8:47. All in favor? Oh, 7, yeah, she's handling it.
7:47.
She's cross out here that one.
Go.
Last week we were. Sam was getting angry.